Good morning. Welcome to your Friday morning, early morning intuitive guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum, America's kick-ass coach and psychologist. Here are some words to get us thinking about some things and maybe making some changes to how we do things so that we end up with a better world. Baby steps, baby steps. So today we are going to go back to Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication by Sharon Ellison. And what I like about taking small bites of this book is it gives us some time to really dive deep on it in our own experience and then make some decisions about, is there anything I want to change about how I do this? Good morning to whomever popped on. I'm wondering if it's Cindy. We'll see. But this next section actually has a lot of different, good morning, has a lot of different, good morning, Carolyn, glad you're here, different little vignettes in it. So for me, the stories are very helpful. I get a better grasp of the concept when they apply a story to it. Welcome to the other two of you who have popped on. Your names aren't popping up yet, but I see we have 4 present. So glad everybody's here. Good morning, Jill. Glad you're here. Awesome. So, and again, my belief is if you're here today, there's something in these words that's meant for you, something for you to cogitate on, make decisions about, contemplate. So, for those of you who have the book and are following along with me, it's page 137. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for the hearts. Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication. So a couple of nice deep breaths just to open up and become receptive to whatever we're going to gather today. Nice deep breath in and out. Good morning, Diane. In and out. And I'm smiling about the breathing because I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and she was talking about how 2023 is going to be a year where we all need to change how we breathe because we haven't been attentive to what our bodies need with regard to oxygen. Good morning, Deb. Glad you're here. We've been depriving our body, mind, and spirit of needed air. So we're going to be doing a whole lot more breathing this year. Another nice deep breath in. Let's do it. In. And out. As much out as you can. Push it all out. Because that then sets up the next in. Right? So if you shove out a little more stale air, you have a little more room for some fresh air to take in on the next inhale. So, page 137, down at the bottom, this little section is called Disarming. And it starts right off with a story. When Jose first made his statement to Adelia, and the issue there was Jose did not appreciate how Adelia's daughter, who was in high school, Carmen, was treating her mother, and that Carmen was allowing not nice comments and was picking up after her daughter instead of expecting her high school age daughter to pick up after herself. So when Jose first made his statement to Adelia, he really did not expect her to do anything differently. That is the key thing. We're not doing this we're not saying what we're saying to get someone to change. We are saying what we're saying because it speaks our truth. There's a difference, okay? And people on the receiving end of our words pick up that difference. And it influences whether or not they get defensive. Something in how he spoke enabled her to listen better. And I would guarantee it's that he didn't have an agenda for her to change. Okay? She became open to receiving the information that was important, not only for her, but also for her daughter. Good morning, Lisa. Glad you're here. If I missed anybody, glad you're here. I got my head down to read the book, so I may miss you sliding past. Okay. In many cases, if a person continues to be defensive after we have asked a sincere question, a non-defensive statement can prompt the person to open up in genuine conversation. So here's the example. This is the one from Min, who does customer service at a university and oftentimes has to deal with very upset students in terms of funding issues. After Min had asked an angry student a question or two, she would express her own reactions if the student continued to speak rudely. She sometimes said, "When you shout at me, it's hard for me to get the details of what has happened, and I can't think about how to solve the problem so I can help you." She's just putting it out there. Here's what happens. When you yell at me, I can't think straight and help you out. Okay? Min's non-threatening directness often caused the upset student to calm down and answer questions or explain the situation more clearly. The next vignette that we're going to be talking about is, good morning, Linda. Welcome from Down Under. I'm glad you're here. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to have you here. The next vignette is about Selma and Gordon, and the story there was they were work partners on teams at work, and Selma wasn't carrying her share of the work, and Gordon was getting more and more burned out and angry. So that's the backstory here. After Selma acknowledged that she wasn't carrying her fair share of the workload on their joint projects and had been feeling guilty about it, Gordon went on to tell her about his own reactions. He described not only his frustration with her, but also his concern for her struggle as a single parent. He shared his reluctance to ask too much of her, his subsequent awareness that he was burning out, and his decision to talk to her once he realized how his own marriage was being adversely affected. Selma was very moved by what he had said. Okay? Again, he's not trying to get her to change. He's just speaking his truth about the situation. Good morning, Gwen. Glad you're here. When we balance the expression of our vulnerability with direct observations about others, they often find it easier to hear us. I think because they're not feeling like we're stepping into judgment, you, but more like, here's where I'm at, here's where I'm seeing you're at, am I accurate, etc. Leveling the playing field so there can actually be a decent conversation about whatever the topic is, okay? They sense such statements are not designed to control their response and recognize our integrity in exposing our own experience. Feeling more trust in us, they are less likely to lock into resistance and blindly object to whatever we say. Again, essentially what's happening here is we're letting go of the outcome. We're taking our step, we're saying what we need to say, and one of you on this call did this yesterday. You spoke your truth about something at work, and the person you were talking to was kind of shocked that that's where you were coming from, but you spoke your truth, and she could hear you because you weren't trying to manipulate her into getting her to do something about the circumstances. You were merely speaking your truth about it. It'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds. The information others receive from us can be very valuable to them because sometimes we just go about doing things without questioning why we're doing what we're doing. It may be because that's how we were taught. It may be because that's a subconsciously driven thing. Who knows? But if someone points it out to us, we can go, oh, yeah, I don't know why I did that. So here's one of those. Marie, in whom Celeste had confided about an eating disorder, decided to take a risk and talk to Celeste about her reactions to Marie having told her about the eating disorder. I wasn't totally honest with you the last time we saw each other. I was having some difficult reactions to what you told me, and I was afraid to share them. That's honest. Good morning, Beth. Good morning, Linda. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. So she's just saying, I was afraid to tell you how I was reacting to what you said to me, okay? And the good thing about this story so far is it reiterates the point that we can go back to something. If we walk away from a conversation feeling disingenuous, man, I did not speak my truth there, we can go back to it after the fact. You know, when we talked about blah, 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 that's what she's doing right here. When you said that you had never told your partner about your eating disorder, I was shocked. I see you as so competent and successful. The idea that you were allowing such a fear of rejection to dominate your life made me feel discouraged for all of us as women. So she's just putting out her reaction there. Rather than devastating or alienating Celeste, as Marie had feared, her statement brought them closer. Celeste had had similar discomfort with the way she was able, that she was then able to voice to Marie. Their conversation gave Celeste the courage to work toward taking the risk of being more open with her partner. Okay? So that's the disarming part, that when we just come at something directly and we're not trying to manipulate an outcome. Good morning, Mel. Good. Yes. People sense that, and they're willing to take a step forward into the conversation with us. This next little section is called separateness. And there's some lovely stuff in here that 2 points I think are important. One is oftentimes people don't understand where we're coming from. And I think that this first story really nails that one. And they assume we're coming from a particular place when we aren't. But we haven't been honest enough with where we are coming from and why for them to change up their mistaken perspective. Okay? Second thing is, when things are a heated topic, there's going to be one in here on politics, it helps us know how to meet that as evenly as possible and proceed. Okay? So this is called separateness. When we remain focused on defending ourselves and controlling how the other person is reacting, we usually inhibit the power of what we say and spend most of our energy countering what we are told. Hear that again. That is so important. Literally, we are wasting our energy, our precious energy, defending a position as opposed to building into the conversation, stepping forward, deepening that conversation, allowing for differences, etc. So I'm going to read that sentence again because it's so powerful. When we remain focused on defending ourselves and controlling how the other person is reacting, we usually inhibit the power of what we say and spend most of our energy countering what we are told. So Betsy, a workshop participant who worked for Head Start, had a difficult conversation with a man who was objecting to any form of national health care on the grounds that there's too much government bureaucracy already. Her initial retort had been, well then, what difference does a little more make? So she's kind of baiting him into the discussion, and it's not going to go well, right? I asked her if her own position on national health care had anything to do with how much bureaucracy there is. She looked blank for a minute and then said, well, no, it doesn't. I then asked her what her own position was, and she replied, I have worked for years in a Head Start program in a small community, and I have watched children come to school with chronic colds, bronchitis, and ear infections. They are not sick enough to end up in the hospital, but they are too sick to concentrate on schoolwork. I watch these children grow up, and after years of not being healthy enough to do well in school, they become dropouts, get hooked on drugs, get pregnant, and it breaks my heart. What Betsy said was impassioned and insightful, and people were moved. Only an hour earlier, she had protested, but Sharon, we could never be as eloquent as you are. And there's times when I'm reading these words that Sharon Ellison writes, going, man, she is eloquent. She knows exactly how to put this out there. I don't think I could put it out there in that way. Yeah. What she's saying is, when you speak from your heart and soul, it's automatically impassioned. It's automatically listenable. Okay? She had not been eloquent in her response to the man, who was sick of bureaucracies, because she used her energy to counter him instead of speaking to what was true for her. All right? So rather than doing battle on their position, claim your own position, even if you're the lone voice talking for that position. And we'll get to one of those, okay? In the struggle, she lost her own verbal integrity and clarity. So here's the story about the politics. Rebecca, who had been involved in local politics for many years, decided to try the non-defensive approach one evening at a political meeting. She found herself alone in her position, talking with 5 other people who opposed her viewpoint regarding a city planning issue. First, she asked some questions about their respective positions. Then she stated her position independently. as she would to a friend, without trying to answer their arguments point for point, and without trying to convince anyone to agree with her. So there again, she's letting go of the outcome. She's speaking her truth directly, and probably it doesn't have a whole lot of that baiting quality that oftentimes political conversations will have, political fights, not even a conversation. She's not trying to get them to understand or change their opinion. She's just trying to speak her truth in a way that they can hear, okay? They concluded the conversation and parted company. Typically, during a discussion of political differences, people part more polarized rather than less. Yet during the course of the evening, 2 of the 5 people sought her out and said essentially the same thing. You caused me to reconsider my opinion with regard to this issue. So there's a paradox here, and I want to point it out. I want to bring it into the light. When she let go of trying to get them to understand and change their position, they actually changed their position. So again, it's the same as we've talked about in recent times with regard to, I don't like the term goal setting anymore, but setting our intentions for things. Okay, so if January 1st you set some intentions for 2023, to set them, write them down, release them is a good approach. Because if we cling to them like a life raft in the pitching sea, we oftentimes undo ourselves. Within a month or 2, we're no longer following those goals that we wanted to set. You know, it's the, I just read a tongue-in-cheek meme on Facebook yesterday about it being January 19th, yesterday, and basically the people had chucked all of their New Year's resolutions already. So they were setting New Year's resolutions that they were sure they could keep. I'm going to drink more. I'm going to eat junk food. I'm going to lay on the couch. Ha ha ha. But there's a nugget of gold in there, which is when we set intentions and then release them to allow the unified field of the universe to help us with those intentions. We move forward in leaps and bounds often compared to when we feel like we have to project manage every little aspect of the thing, etc. Okay, good morning, Tom. Glad you're here. I know it runs counter to how most of us have been trained. Bust your ass, get things done, you're entirely responsible, blah, 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 etc. The more open you can be to, this is what I'd like to accomplish. I'm turning it over to the universe. I'll take the steps that come my way. I'm not going to shove, push, demand, force, any of that stuff. I'm going to show up. I'm going to open my eyes to opportunities. I'm going to take the opportunities that present themselves to me. Can you hear that that's much more in flow? And I will guarantee for you much more likely to produce the outcome have happen. When you're not hanging on so tight and wringing the neck of that outcome, it's much more able to manifest, okay? So you keep yourself open, so I'll give you one of mine, my intentional community project. I could be obnoxious about trying to make this thing happen and talking to people and jamming it down their throats and blah, blah, blah. Or I can do kind of what I'm hoping I'm doing. Isn't that funny? I always think it's hilarious. Good morning, Elizabeth. I always think it's hilarious the point at which the internet decides to go kerflooey. And it's usually a point where I'm saying something really important. And in this case, it was talking about when we allow the unfolding of things rather than trying to force stuff to happen, okay? And that's what that little section I just read is talking about in the book. We speak our truth directly, kindly, lovingly, openly. We own our own vulnerabilities with it, but we're not trying to jam our position down someone else's throat. when we let go of it, when we just speak our truth, it goes so much better. All right? So that is your mission for today. That's what I want to see all of us practicing today. Speaking our truth about things, not worrying about the outcome of the conversation, speaking it as directly, honestly, vulnerably as we can, and say, let's see what happens. Make it an experiment for today, all right? Have an awesome day. See you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are.